The government of Cuba condemned the subversive purposes of the new measures announced by the United States regarding the largest of the Antilles. A new act of violence in the Colombian department of Chocó leaves 4 people killed. Protesters gathered outside the Home Office in London in support of Julian Assange and urging the government not to sign his extradition order to the US. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Cuban Deputy Foreign Minister Carlos Fernández de Cosio today condemned the subversive purposes of the measures recently announced by the U.S. with respect to the island. As reported by the official, the provisions have a hostile language towards the revolution and make clear the intentions to divide, destroy the unity of the people and the political system of the Caribbean nation. He pointed out that the regulations for the roadmap notified by Biden's administration are still pending, which could take months to be issued. The U.S. government announced the day before the elimination of limits on remittances, the authorization of the so-called people-to-people travel, and the family reunification program, all suspended by Trump's administration. Regular and charter flights to Cuban provinces will also be re-established. Consular services at its embassy in Havana will be expanded and other provisions will be included. Venezuela confirmed this Tuesday an easing of the illegitimate sanctions imposed by the United States government. The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, said that her government has verified and confirmed the news that the United States of America has authorized U.S. and European oil companies to negotiate and restart operations in Venezuela. Rodriguez stressed that Washington's decision comes at a time when the South American country has taken its first step on the road to economic recovery in spite of the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the U.S. against the Venezuelan people. The Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez said on her official Twitter account, quote, "Venezuela hopes that the United States of America's decision will pave the way for the absolute lifting of the illegal sanctions that affect all our people." Rodriguez also reiterated that the Bolivarian government of Venezuela, attached to its profound democratic values, will continue to tirelessly promote fruitful dialogue at the national and international level. The President of Venezuela's National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, announced Tuesday on his official Twitter account that he had held a meeting with the head of the opposition delegation, Gerardo Blit, to resume the dialogue that took place in Mexico. Jorge Rodriguez also said he had stressed the importance of addressing social issues of interest to the Venezuelan people and that Alex Saab, who had been kidnapped for 704 days, was a full member of the Venezuelan delegation, was their delegate at the negotiation table, and that Venezuela will continue to demand that he always be a member of the delegation and participate in all initiatives agreed upon during the talks. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reacted to revelations of the former United States Secretary of Defense and asked the National Assembly to investigate the invasion and assassination plans against him. Our correspondent in Caracas, Madeline Garcia, gives us the detail.
Venezuela would be different if in 2020 the order of former President of the United States, Donald Trump, to invade the country and assassinate President Nicolas Maduro has succeeded. Recently, his former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, broke his silence and confessed everything.
Certainly the last year of the administration, you have folks in the White House are proposing to take military action against Venezuela, to strike Iran. At one point,
Esper wrote a book that was quoted in fragments by the ambassador of Venezuela to the UN, Samuel Moncada. These images correspond to the first meeting. There, Trump proposed to Guaido an invasion with the U.S. military men and the assassination of President Nicolas Maduro. Guaido told him, according to Esper, that they had some kind of action in Colombia and received the support of Trump's government. The Venezuelan security forces hindered the so-called Operation Gideon, an attempted invasion by mercenaries trained in the Colombian Guajira by the Silver Cup enterprise, which was owned by former U.S. Army Jordan Goudreau, who was also bodyguard of the then President of the United States, who was hired to kill. The document was signed by Juan Guaido, among others. This operation did not start on May 3rd, but on February 23rd, 2019, during the other invasion attempt with the entrance of the supposed humanitarian aid, also from Colombia. Protected witnesses revealed that the intention was not precisely to bring in the aid, but to provoke a war between Colombia and Venezuela, and hence the intervention of the United States after the alleged uprising of Venezuelan military that never took place.
The order we had was not to let humanitarian aid enter Venezuela. We had to burn it, to blow it all up, make the people riot or steal the boxes, anything. Duque said to Guaido, "And what happened with the military that you told me? The ones that were going to rise up," and Guaido started to call and call and call, and nobody answered the phone.
That day, Venezuelan military and civil servants who defected were recruited and trained for Operation Gideon, and with this failure several things were discovered, among them that the approval of the tire managed by Guaido was part of the plan.
For that reason, Guaido suggested the signing of the treaty, which we had rejected for being a document that protects U.S. advisors.
2 months before Operation Gideon, the United States put a price on the head of President Nicolás Maduro and other officials. Furthermore, with the excuse of fighting drug trafficking, they mobilized the Fourth Fleet to the Caribbean, but a ship of the Venezuelan Navy was rammed by one of the vessels where mercenaries were supposedly going. That ship was also part of the plan.
And this operation was in conjunction with the warships that were in international waters. This was a fleet made up of American ships, Irish ships, and some English ships.
The United States denied their participation, as did the government of Colombia, but the facts and testimonies say otherwise. In an exclusive interview spoke the lawyer of the Sequia brothers, former Venezuelan military men who were in charge of the mercenary camps where they were trained.
When they arrive in Colombia, they are received by the Presidency of the Republic. They are placed at the order of Colombian migration. Colombian migration, of course, begins to give them legality within the country, giving them safe conduits to them.
Even more serious, the Colombian prosecutor's office also has an open investigation. Nothing more and nothing less than to Juan Guaido and the lawyer of Jaxi Alvarez, the right hand of Cliver Alacla, one of the heads of the Gideon operation, asked him to testify.
We have requested that President Guaido give a statement to the Colombian prosecutor's office and to the judge of the Republic. The prosecutor's office has refused to call him. I do not know for what reason, but before the judges, we're going to request this because the prosecutor's office itself mentions Mr. Guaido as a person who originated this situation with the concert that took place in Cúcuta.
The book by Donald Trump's former Pentagon chief ends up confirming each phase of the operation and weaving together the facts that will be investigated by the Venezuelan parliament.
TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
Members of the National Teachers Union of Ecuador went on their 15th day of hunger strike with new actions to demand a fair wage. As explained by the union's president Isabel Vargas, the hunger strike is one more measure taken by teachers to demand Guillermo Lazo's administration to deliver the budget for education, especially for the maintenance of educational institutions, as well as a wage reform. On Tuesday was the 15th day of the hunger strike carried out by 32 teachers from the cities of Quito and Guayaquil. In the same way, teachers in Guayas took their protest to an extreme with an action of collective desanguination, while they wait on a ruling by the Constitutional Court on the presidential objection to the organic law of intercultural education. The law establishes a salary compensation that increases the basic monthly salary for those who work as teachers from $870 to $986. The insecurity crisis deepens in Haiti. A dozen traders were kidnapped northwest of the capital Port-au-Prince. According to local media, in the early hours of Tuesday morning, in the northwest of the country's capital, the group of traders was ambushed by an armed gang as they were returning from the public market in Kenaminthe, a city on the border with the Dominican Republic. The country has experienced a wave of kidnapping since the middle of last year, when criminal gangs took control of Martisan. In the meantime, the police carry out several interventions in vulnerable neighborhoods with the aim of reducing the criminal organizations. We are taking a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Violence continues in vulnerable sectors of Colombia. On Tuesday, a new massacre was reported in the department of Chocó. According to the Institute for Development and Peace Studies, the bodies of 4 people were found with gunshot wounds on May 13th in the municipality of Alto Baudo. 3 of the victims belong to the M. Vera Dovida de Peña indigenous people. The event caused the displacement of more than 200 indigenous people from that community to the Afro Council of Chacachajo and the Biaquirude community. Data from INDEPAS indicated that so far in 2022, 40 massacres were registered throughout the territory, and the number 3 in the department of Chocó. In Bolivia, relatives and victims of the Sacaba and Sencata massacres that happened in 2019 held a new day of demonstration demanding justice. Dozens of relatives and victims gathered around the Casa Grande del Pueblo office of the executive, demanding an audience with President Luis Arce. The demonstrators put up posters and photographs of the victims of the de facto coup. The massacres were denounced by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and later in an extensive investigation by the interdisciplinary group of independent experts pointed to the responsibility of the interim government of Janine Áñez, who is being prosecuted for crimes that allow her access to power and not for the massacres. In Panama, workers and students groups called for day-long protests against the high cost of living. The Popular Union Alliance for the National Dignity announced that this May 17th and 18th they will carry out protests at different places in the city as a phase 1 of protests to demand general improvements in society. These sectors will also support the eastern province of Colón in the second week of protests demanding a comprehensive development plan and the completion of unfinished projects by the President of the Republic, Laurentino Cortizo, since November 2021. In addition to the scattered gathering scheduled for Thursday, May 19th, they will stage a massive march which will start at the Belisarius Porras Park in the capital, and it will end at the executive headquarters to demand solutions. In El Salvador, movements of the LGBTQ community marched on Tuesday in commemoration of the International Day Against Homo-Lesbo-Transphobia. The collective representing the LGBTQ community in the Central American nation took to the streets of the city of San Salvador in defense of their rights and for the creation of a gender identity law. In 1990, the World Health Organization declassified homosexuality as a mental disease. Following this decision, on May 17th, nearly 130 countries celebrate the World Day Against Homo-Lesbo-Transphobia.
This day we are also here because in the 21st century we are still being discriminated against. We do not have a sexual identity, access to education is limited, it is prejudiced, it is stigmatized against our population because of our sexual identity or because of our sexual orientation. We are also here so that people realize that we are all diverse, that there are not only heterosexual people, but that there are all the identities that are represented here. We are human and we must have guarantees of our rights.
According to figures from the National Search Commission, this Monday more than 100,000 disappeared were surpassed in the country. The announcement of the figure by the organization generated concern among human rights organizations that asked the government to take urgent and forceful actions to address the crisis. The United Nations Committee Enforced Disappearance called on Mexican authorities last month to take immediate measures to put an end to the alarming upward trend in forced disappearances. The committee admitted that those responsible for the growth of disappearances in Mexico were public servants, both at the federal, state, and municipal levels, as well as organized crime groups, which are considered to be the main perpetrator of disappearances. The Russian President Vladimir Putin said Tuesday the oil market has been experiencing changes of a tectonic nature and accused the West for overestimating the capabilities of the alternative energies while downplaying the traditional energy sources.
It is completely obvious that due to an internal political agenda, the capabilities of alternative energies have been overestimated and the importance of traditional energies downplayed, all of its fields, fossil fuels included. The changes in the oil market have tectonic nature, and doing business as before following the old model appears unlikely. In these new conditions, is not just about producing oil, but building the whole vertical chain, all the way up to the final consumer.
We have more news coming up after our final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Protesters gathered outside the Home Office in London in support of Julian Assange and to urge the British government not to sign his extradition order to the US. A UK court on Wednesday issued a formal order to extradite Assange to face trial in the United States over the publication of secret files relating to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. The final decision now rests with Interior Minister Priti Patel, although Assange could yet appeal. If tried and convicted by US court, the cyber activist, who has been locked up in a London maximum security prison since his arrest at the Ecuadorian embassy in April 2019, could be sentenced to 175 years in prison from the 17 charges against him.
This political case, the political persecution of Julian Assange, is now formally in the hands of Priti Patel. The future of Julian is now being decided by her. Previously, we've had all these months and years in the courtrooms debating the legal aspects in the case. And actually that debate has primarily exposed the pure fact that this is a political case.
Egyptian people and merchants say they are suffering from food price hikes and inflation brought by the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and the COVID-19 pandemic.
There are several causes of this phenomenon. The first and main cause is the panic brought by the Russia-Ukraine conflict and its impact on the world economy. This is because Russia is one of the largest exporters and producers of many products. It exports these products to many countries. Also, there has been the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the global economy.
Turkey's president traveled to Abu Dhabi to offer his condolences on the death of the United Arab Emirates' late ruler and meet with the newly ascended president. Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who ascended the presidency following the death of Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the long-ailing ruler who died Friday at the age of 73. The late Al Nahyan presided over the country's rapid transformation into a global business hub and regional power center. Erdogan's visit follows an array of presidents and prime ministers, including French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who also made the trip to pay their respects. Ghana has started a bulk purchase program to buy gold locally to raise the gold component of its reserves, Central Bank Governor Ernest Addison said on Tuesday in a bid to strengthen the city currency without increasing inflation. The gold, oil and cocoa producing countries saw consumer inflation rise to an 18-year-old record of almost 24% in April despite efforts to contain price hikes and spur recovery. We have started a bulk purchase program domestic where we buy gold locally and try to raise the gold component in our level of reserves. This is where the currency focus is, Addison said at a conference.
Say that for Ghana, the central bank has started the gold purchase program, domestic gold purchase program, where we are currently buying gold locally and sort of trying to raise the gold component in the level of our reserves, and this is where the current policy focus is.
We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
In a